All right, welcome back to Keepin the Comic, and we're picking up here on issue number 2 of the main Venom War comic storyline, and this one is phenomenal. Carnage makes a devilish bargain with Meridius. We uncover Meridius's real plan here for the Venom War, and then Spidey has an epic showdown with Eddie Brock, which is just wild. Like, wait until you see what Eddie does here. So initially, we open up back here at Alchemax in a continuation from issue number 1, where Meridius had just told the group that he created the new K44 drug, the upgrade to K43. So someone asked Meridius, and this is most likely Liz Allen, the current CEO of Alchemax here. So she asked a question like, what's in the K chemical that he's created? So Meridius brings up Lee Price. Now, if you don't know who Lee Price is, he was someone that bonded with the Venom symbiote for a little while before he died. So Meridius lets us know that after Price had died, that he came in contact with someone named the Captive. And when that happened, it reactivated the symbiote traces in his system, and then that made those traces controllable. Now, these are the same traces that they use to fuse with the K chemical, and what Meridius has used here to create what he calls zombiotes, which is huge, because basically what Meridius is telling us here is that the outbreak of zombiotes in New York right now, the ones that we saw here in a previous Venom War tie-in in Venomous, where we saw Black Widow and Anti-Venom going up against them, and then also in the Venom War Zombiotes issue, where we saw all those zombiotes attacking She-Hulk and Hellcat, you know, in the city there in New York. Like, this is all because of Meridius. And if you've missed any of the issues here for Venom War, like the tie-ins, the prequels, the main storyline, whatever, like, I have all of that here in a playlist on the channel. So definitely go check it out if you need to get yourself caught up. So shortly after that, right, a man barges into the room stating that the zombiotes have gotten out of the basement, and even mentions the horse, which, let's be real, when the heck are we going to see that horse? Because that thing sounds amazing. So then Meridius breaks the cap off the K44 tube, and then he shoves it into this guy named Carlton's mouth to have him become a zombiote. Now, one of the guys asked the question, yo, what the hell did you just do? Which Meridius replies and says, you said it yourself, it's an infection. Now Carlton has it, and so do you, which then we see Carlton slashing the guy right at his neck. So one of the guys that's with Liz, right, is like, the infection even spreads to the dead. So Liz is like, okay, she got this, right? She's like, let's see how these zombiotes respond to Anti-Venom. And then she transforms into Misery, who is a half Anti-Venom and half Carnage symbiote, which is a secret that she's been keeping for some time around, because not a lot of people know. As a matter of fact, I think only Flash Thompson knows that she has had a symbiote here. Now, Meridius was not expecting this, but quickly thinking on his feet here, he pulls out a gun that had the original K chemical formula that Alchemax created years ago that was deadly to symbiotes. So he shoots it at Misery, drenching her in it. And then Meridius, using his own symbiote skin, he forms a punch and then punches her through the glass as she falls down, way down here on top of a car, as we see the zombiote, the other zombiotes that he created in that room, you know, surround him here. But then right after that, right, this other guy shows up into the room and says to Meridius, you do realize that she survived that, right? So Meridius is like, I very much doubt that. Then we see that it's actually Cletus Cassidy, aka Carnage, that's talking to him. So Meridius is like, sorry, who are you again? And why aren't you zombioted? And also, that's a very loud suit. So Carnage, he has his own Venom War tie-in issue here as well, and he's been doing investigations to find out what's been going on with this K program himself from Alchemax. We saw him testing one of those chemicals on human subjects. We saw him getting into the mind of one of the Alchemax scientists here to get some information, which is when he found out that the scientist had found a way to control the symbiote tissue samples that she was working on. Truth is that Alchemax has been working on trying to control symbiotes for years now. The issue is that they have not been successful with it, until, of course, now Meridius, who we can see here controlling these zombiotes that are around him. But one thing that Cletus recognized, which he mentioned back in his own tie-in issue here, is that he could see that this was a new version of the K chemical that was created by someone that, as he says, that is far more dangerous than Alchemax, which is what has led him to this point here where he's meeting with Meridius again, but we'll talk about that again part a little bit later on. So Meridius lets him know, like, listen, if you came here to bargain, I do not need your help anymore, but you can stay and watch for old time's sake. To which Cletus says, all right, fine, I got the best seat in the house anyways, and listen, we do not want a Carnage and Meridius team up. That is a match made in hell there. So then we go back to another follow-up here from the first issue where Spider-Man and Venom had just barged into the showdown between dad Eddie Brock and son Dylan Brock. So Spider-Man wants to call a quick timeout here, right? First, he wants to set some ground rules, as he said. He's like, Eddie, today is costume names only, okay? So Eddie is like, costume names only? Well, you're wearing mine, and why are you wearing my symbiote, Spider-Man? Now, the Venom symbiote is saying to Peter how he thinks that he should talk to Eddie because he knows Eddie. But Peter's like, no, you are way too close. I got this. I'll take control of this. Which is true because if you think about it, right, between Eddie and Dylan, Venom knows that he cannot trust his instincts around him. So Peter is explaining to Eddie that someone had to put on Venom or else Venom would have died, which is what Venom wanted to do anyways. That's the reason why he snuck into Peter Parker's closet, why he was there. Like his whole intent was just to die right there. So Peter lets Eddie know, he's like, since I've gone through a little bit here with Venom recently, he's understanding now that Eddie would not be safe hands here for Venom. And he's not sure that Venom would be good for Dylan either, and how Dylan might also feel the same way about Venom as well. So with both Dylan and Eddie being concerned about the other getting the Venom symbiote, that he thinks that he's the best one right now, meaning Peter himself, to be the neutral third party that rocks the chains until both Eddie and Dylan have worked things out. So Eddie being pissed is like, okay, you know what, Spider-Man? We should stick to costume names here. You want to be Venom? Then I will be Bedlam. Now, Bedlam is a savage. He is the most violent version here of Eddie Brock. He has all of his rage and bloodlust, and with him now bonding with the human form of Eddie, that makes him twice as dangerous. But Venom knows Eddie very well and can predict his moves. As he calls it, it's sort of like a symbiote sense. So he can help Peter out in this fight here. And listen, this fight between Spidey and Bedlam, oh my goodness, it is fire. Because you can see, along with Peter's reflexes and Venom's symbiote sense, that the movement between both of them, as he says, is very easy. It's very fluid, right? And there's a scene where Peter's arm stretches and then connects with the face of Bedlam, which just looks so visually appealing. It's amazing, man. So Venom is like, I'm not enjoying fighting Eddie, but then in another note, he's like, but am I at the same time, right? So meanwhile, Dylan's crew here, they're off to the side and they're like, oh shoot, the grown-ups are fighting. So Toxin is asking the question. He's like, okay, so which side are we on here? And then Sleeper, the other symbiote, is like, are we picking sides? So then go back to Toxin here. Toxin is basically like, listen, the situation could work for us here, right? We don't want your dad getting Venom. Spider-Man is a hero. He was an Avenger. Him keeping Venom is the best case scenario here. And then Sleeper is like, well, Toxin kind of has a point. Spider-Man would be a very responsible host. There is really no downside to this unless Dylan, do you want the symbiote back? So meanwhile, right, in the fight, Peter starts singing and he's like, when a problem comes along, you must whip it real good while throwing both chains and spider webs here at Bedlam at the same time. So Bedlam, Eddie grabs the web and tosses him outside of the ring. So one of the announcer guys that is still there, by the way, for whichever reason, he says, hey, Peter, long time no see, right? So then Peter's like, listen, it is not a good time right now. So then the announcer asks Peter if he can just say a few quick words for the fans and then listen. This time, Peter, when he talks back, he's like, I said, and then Venom finishes it. He says, it's not a good time. So now we're starting to see Spider-Man's rage coming out here. So Wild, another version of Eddie Brock here, is like, listen, Eddie, Bedlam, Peter is starting to lose it. Let's turn the heat down a little bit on this. But then Bedlam is like, turn the heat down? Hell no, let's turn the heat up. So he picks up Tyro and Wild, and Eddie basically kind of just eats them, which is basically what Spidey asks, like, if he did. So Bedlam lets him know, listen, they are weak, Now their mass makes us stronger and their pain makes us stronger as well. So now we're looking at this massive, and I mean massive, Eddie Brock's, and Peter's rage is starting to increase as well. Although Venom is kind of asking the question, he's like, is this Peter or is this because of my influence? And the way I see it, it's probably because of both. So then Dylan, right? He finally starts speaking to the group because this entire time he's been quiet here. So he tells Flexo and Sleeper to form onto him. And when they do, he shouts out to Bedlam and Spidey. And he's like, both of you stand down or take it up with the Prince in Black. And listen to me, man. I know some of you guys probably like this here, the Prince in Black thing, but I thought this thing was corny as heck. But listen, if y'all like it, y'all like it. That's just me, okay? So then back with Meridius, right? He's admiring right now his zombio play that has been spreading through the entirety here of New York. Like this dude's plan, like Meridius' plan is this, right? He wants to create his garden here on Earth. So the Garden of Time was destroyed by Carnage in previous Venom issues here. So what he's trying to do right now is that he's trying to build that garden here on Earth. So what he intends to do here is he intends to wait until his zombiotes pretty much basically cover up the entirety of New York and further on. And then later on, he's going to be able to get the Venom symbiote. So he's basically just sitting here in his chair, just waiting for all of this to happen. So then Cletus says to him, well, Cletus would have called that boring, to which Meridius is like, he's not here. And Cletus is like, long story. Because technically Cletus died, but then he was formed again because of Carnage. The story gets really complex, and I'm 100% oversimplifying it right now. I don't really want to get into it, but let's just leave it where it is, right? That is not the original Cletus that we're looking at right now. So Cletus then says how he finds this version of Meridius fascinating. So Meridius, recalling the last meeting with Carnage where he destroyed his garden, he doesn't seem very thrilled to hear that, and then asks him the question, why are you here now? What do you want? Which then Carnage says, what does any good Satan figure want? The soul of Eddie Brock gift wrapped. And then we see this insane looking, really good, like I'm telling you guys, the art on this Carnage right now is amazing. It is absolutely ridiculous right now what we're seeing. This is absolutely amazing, and I need to see more of this. And the thing is with Carnage, ever since he got rid of all of his weaknesses as a symbiote here, his ultimate goal has been this. So in a way right now, the deal could work between him and Meridius, right? Where Meridius wants the Venom symbiote and Carnage wants Eddie Brock. It's a match made in hell, like I said before. Although to be fair, I'm pretty sure that Carnage is going to try to kill Meridius at some point, and that's probably how this thing is going to end. But we'll have to stay tuned to see how that works out. But an amazing issue here of Venom War 2. I cannot wait to see what they're going to do here in other tie-ins. In the third issue, this was really, really, really good. Let me know what you think here down below in the comments. Like and subscribe here for the algorithm. Join our Discord if you haven't done so already to keep up with the content that we're doing here on the channel. And until next time, and as always, thanks so much for kicking it with Keepin' the Comic.